This is Between the Lines. Today, we dissect the road less traveled.
So you wanna talk about power? Let me show you power. Hello, we continue talking here about the road less traveled, and in this episode, chapter 48, the nature of power. We can talk about power now because we have like all the basis in order to do so, according to the doctor, and according to him, there are two types of power. One is political and the other is spiritual. And political power is about the capacity to coerce others, to make them do what they will, at your will, to make them do the things you want. And this can be done overtly or covertly. So you can show your intentions for them to do the things you want to do, or you can somehow manage without saying out loud your real intentions, manipulate them to do the things that you want them for you. And in political power, the power itself resides or is in the position that you are having at the moment. For example, it could be a presidency, a kingship, it could be, you could be the CEO of an organization, you could be in a position of wealth. So this is about the position that you're in and not about the individual, as or the title. You could say it's the position, the title you possess or you have or you are in, but not about you as an individual. However, the spiritual power, all this is, of course, according to the doctor, spiritual power resides in the person. So these people, this individual, this person makes conscious decision. He is aware, he or she, them are aware of the things that will happen if they make certain decisions, if they take certain actions, and also about the responsibility that they have with that power. And this is totally regardless their position. We could say spiritual power comes with fully aware people or to fully aware people. And I'll be talking more about this now. I talked about decisions and that people who are in or who have spiritual power make conscious decisions. And most of us, most of the time, we just make decisions without really putting all the thought that could be necessary for the situation, or sometimes we don't have all the awareness we really need in order to be at a better position spiritually. We could say we just do the things that we can and we just take actions without measuring the consequences we could have, or even sometimes with good intentions we cause harms onto other. And sometimes it's the other way. Sometimes there are other people, in this case this would not be totally associated to spiritual power, but they make some decisions, and these decisions that they make are for to harm somebody else, and however it is reverted and it ends up being something good or perceived as something good for the person or for a collective of people. And I have an example of that. I don't know if you have seen I don't quite remember the name of the movie right now. Yes, I think it's Mean Girls, where one of the girls is like the beautiful one, and the other girls are jealous of that girl, and they take their favorite, her favorite shirt, and they make a hole in the shirt, and in the end it becomes like popular at school, right? So they did something on purpose, in a mean way, but it ended up being better for her. So yeah, I know that you may find that I don't know, like nonsense as an example, but that's the kind of thing. You do something with your meanest in mind, and then it turns out to be great for the other person, or whatever. And we have lots of examples the other way, so I won't mention any of them. Anyways, we know that this, talking more about spiritual growth, we know this is something that we do throughout all our lives. It's a lifelong learning path that we take, and when we decide to do it, when we decide to undergo this path of learning. And it also has to do with humility, because there's a saying that says the idiot knows all knows it all, right? While the wise person knows that he doesn't have all the knowledge in order to make a decision or to undergo a certain situation, and they acknowledge their ignorance. And that is because the wise person is humble enough to know that they don't have all the knowledge they really, really require in order to make the best decision there is, or the most beneficial decision for everyone in the situation. And if you start going down this path of growing, of maturing of yourself, and then you will realize that there are some times that things start like falling into pieces, and sometimes these pieces, you can start taking them and putting them into the right place of the puzzle, and you can start to see the big picture, and you can start even updating your map of reality. And there will be sometimes that another piece comes and you don't really know where to put it in your puzzle, and you decide maybe to leave it aside for some time, or you feel frustrated, or you feel that you are going down through a period that you are not even recognizing the things in front of you, but somehow you say, okay, I have to revise and review my map of reality, and then start to change things again in order for it all to fit, and maybe sometimes discard even some of the pieces that you have in your puzzle. And that is how you start to trust what you're doing. You start to trust that you are going through the right path, or if you're not, you have to change. But there is, after some time, mastery comes with time, with your experience. With the more you do, the more you will start to know about the things that you're talking about or doing, and also living. So you become an expert in living. The doctor says an expert in living. And this is mastery. In this case, mastery of living, mastery of your own maturity. And that knowing, that mastery is your power. And this power is, like we mentioned in the previous episode, is like we are one with the universe, as we mentioned before. You are one with God, and you are fully aware, or at least the most aware you can be. Maybe we can't be totally aware. Maybe it is not even recommended, as the doctor mentioned before, that we have to have some balance between the unconscious and our conscious mind. And so it happens that we start bringing things from our unconscious and molding them into our conscious self, but we can't bring it all. And in this unconscious mind, there resides God. So we tend to become like this one with the universe, of this God-like being, we could say, or towards that, right? As we mentioned before, one with the universe. And this could be perceived as being really joyful, and it is when you become understanding what you're doing. Again, when you start to understand what you are working with, having certain mastery. Of course, in certain aspects of life, maybe you can be a master at everything, but you start to know when to act, how to act, and somehow understand better. Of course, there will be mistakes all the time. There are mistakes, but you start to be more aware and more conscious, and it becomes also more difficult to really be able to make better decisions. And why is that? Because if everything is joyful, shouldn't it be joyful at the time? Well, as Uncle Ben said to Peter Parker, with great power comes great responsibility. And so at the same time, though, it's really joyful to know where you're going, what you're doing, and that you can do a lot of things. You are starting to understand things, and at the same time, you are terrified, because the more you know, and it happens during every growth or maturity of a person. I've seen it. I'm sure you have seen it in other situations of yours, and also from friends, and that when you start to feel that it's too overwhelming because you have too many variables. Maybe when you were totally unaware and maybe you acted like a child, you blame on others about the things that happened to you and you didn't take responsibility. But now that you're taking responsibility, you realize that there are so many people involved in the situations that you have to affront, or you have to confront, or you have to work on, and you have to put effort on that. And meanwhile, maybe some time ago you were just not caring about the things, but now that you know, you cannot look to the side. I mean, you can, but at the same time, there is something telling you know better than that. And that is the terrifying part of this responsibility that comes with power. And that is why when we are talking about spiritual power, that is when it comes the harder part of it, right? So that is why I call this episode Lonely. It's lonely at the top, like a song, because it really starts to feel lonely. I was talking to side note, I was talking to a friend the other day, and she was telling me that she sometimes feels lonely, that she feels that she cannot connect right now with some other people that she used to, because she's seeing things differently right now. And it happens to us all at some point of life. Sometimes we start to see it differently and we cannot really connect with the people we used to, and we start to have maybe new acquaintances, new friends, and it takes some time, of course, for this transition to really happen. And I want to make a distinction that the doctor makes here that I found it's really important for the continuation of the episode. And it's, even though I said it's lonely at the top, because that's the name of the song, I will link in the comments. However, the doctor says there are two different things: loneliness and aloneness. Aloneness, sorry. And loneliness is just the inability or the unavailability to communicate with anyone at any level. So you are just alone, you are lonely, you don't have anyone to talk to. And however, aloneness is you may be surrounded by lots of people, you can talk to them and you can communicate with them, but you find yourself that you are not at the same level of communication or of awareness that the other people, the rest of the people. So I think that's important, because it feels like being lonely is most of a choice that you or you have the inability or you don't want to communicate with others, but being alone is like you feel that there's no connection with the other people, or maybe you can connect to a certain level, but after that you feel alone, that you feel that you can no longer share values, knowledge, or other stuff with people. And regarding this, the way in which spiritual and political power get closer, I wouldn't say they are the same, but get closer, is at this point when people start growing and growing, maybe a political career or as a spiritual leader, and they become aloneness, as the doctor says. So they may have people around them, but there's no one else for them to tell them what to do, or no one else to blame, or no one else to ask for advice, because they are at the top. So who will they seek out in order to talk to others, right? Or to ask for advice? And that is the way that they share this agony of being the only ones at the top, the ones with the responsibility also for the others. And they are the only ones in charge. And in this case, the doctor says that the spiritual power is worse, we could say, that political power, because you are alone if you are at the top, and you really don't have anyone to really communicate. Maybe with political power, you can have the same level of awareness as your colleagues, even though if you are at the top, for example, presidency, kingship, or a CEO, they don't necessarily have to have raised their level spiritually. So they may have the same level of spirituality that the rest of their team, for example. But in the other way, if we talk about, let's go to the extremes here. For example, the figures he mentions here are Jesus or Buddha, which were enlightened. So they didn't really have anyone like a pair they could talk to, or they could ask advice of, and so on. And so yes, we can talk about, as if we are growing, and this book is about the spiritual growth, so of course he focused on that. If we want to grow spiritually, we will get to a certain point if we go on down this path. I'm not saying I or you, or I don't know, will get to this Jesus level, but every time you grow, you are becoming more like a step closer to this good, to this godness, as he calls it, or closer to this joy, and also this terrifying way of making decisions, because you start to get lonelier and lonelier. Alonelier and alonelier. And those are the concepts I could take from here. He actually mentions a little bit more about Jesus and Buddha and how they extended themselves. There they were tempted with richness or wealthiness and power, political power, but they didn't get into that. They decided just to go the spiritual path. But yes, that is for you to decide how you want to evolve, or maybe where you want to get, and also to analyze where you are right now and how are you planning to go farther on this path. Because I don't think this is just my idea, as we talked about entropy, and that entropy is when you just stand still and do nothing. So if you have started walking down this path of, or up this path of growing, I'm most certainly believe that you will want to continue and fighting this entropy and moving forward and putting the effort into growing. And yes, it will be a little bit harder every step you make towards, I'm just imagining a mountain, at the top of the mountain or the peak. Also because it says it's lonely at the top. So every step you take, maybe more people will be left behind. Also, it comes from the conversation I had with my friend. And at the same time, you will grow a little bit more. So it's terrifying to leave people behind, and ideas and behaviors and all those kind of things. But knowing that you are on the right path or the way you want to go, you are more closer to this top or this God, if you want to call that, or you are more closer to find this balance, or to go to this top, or to go to this towards holiness. I don't know the way you want to call that, one with the universe. You will feel these two things, like this gap in between it, but you will have to decide each step. And I think at the same time it's easier every time you have to leave somebody or some idea or something behind. It's easier when you are more close to the top. Anyways, that was just my idea, and I hope you have been inspired somehow, or can take out something from these ideas, from the doctor especially, because he's the one with these good ideas. I wouldn't say I love them all, but I do take out many things from the book. So yeah, see you next Sunday. Bye bye. And we are ready to talk about power now. Para que se escuche medio fuerte acá.
Stay tuned for Ulua's next episode.